happiness in its most common forms is often associated with noise. We see it in the boisterous celebrations, the laughter that fills a room, the music that brings people together. These moments of shared joy are undoubtedly beautiful and vital to the human experience. The sounds of happiness echo through our lives, reminding us of connections, achievements, and moments of triumph. We naturally express joy through these outward actions, sharing it with the world around us as if to say, look, I am happy. But there is another quieter side to happiness that is often overlooked, a kind of contentment that doesn't require external expression. The phrase "shut up when you are happy" challenges the belief that happiness must always be loud, encouraging us to consider the value of silence. It asks us to explore the moments when joy exists without the need to prove itself, when we are simply content in our own company or in the peaceful presence of others. In these moments, happiness becomes more than just a fleeting emotion. It transforms into a state of being a deep, internal satisfaction that doesn't seek validation or recognition. There is a quiet strength in this form of happiness. It is subtle, often unnoticed by others, but profoundly fulfilling. It is the kind of happiness that arises when we are aligned with ourselves, when we feel whole and at peace, regardless of external circumstances. This silence in happiness allows us to be present, to fully inhabit the moment without distraction. It creates space for reflection, for gratitude, and for a deeper understanding of what truly brings us joy. In the absence of noise, we can listen more closely to our own hearts and minds. We can appreciate the beauty of simply being alive without the pressure to constantly chase after or display our happiness. Silence gives us the opportunity to savor the present, to feel happiness not as something to grasp at, but as something that is already within us. Moreover, this quiet happiness doesn't diminish the value of louder, more expressive joy. Instead, it complements it. It reminds us that happiness can take many forms and that each one is valuable in its own right. In today's society, happiness is often portrayed as something that needs to be shared and showcased. We live in a world where significant moments, from personal achievements to everyday joys, are routinely posted on social media, celebrated with friends, or marked by public displays of excitement. It's almost as if happiness isn't fully real unless others can witness and acknowledge it. This has become a natural part of our social fabric. Sharing moments of joy can deepen our connections with others and create a sense of belonging. There's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to celebrate our happy moments with those around us. However, when the act of sharing happiness becomes habitual or expected, it can sometimes shift our focus from the internal experience of joy to the external reactions we receive. The likes, comments, and affirmations from others start to play a larger role in how we perceive and process our own happiness. We may find ourselves seeking approval or validation, wondering how our happiness measures up in the eyes of others, rather than simply experiencing it for what it is. In these moments, the purity of our happiness can become diluted. The joy that originates from within, from a sense of personal fulfillment or contentment, becomes intertwined with external perceptions. We start to focus on how our happiness appears to others, which can shift our priorities and sometimes even reduce the depth of our joy. This outward expression can unintentionally distance us from the quiet, personal experience of happiness that doesn't need to be broadcasted, but simply felt. Moreover, the constant need to share happy moments can create a subtle pressure to always be in a state of visible joy, reinforcing the idea that happiness is only valid when it's public. This can lead to a disconnection from the more introspective and personal aspects of happiness, where silence and stillness allow us to truly sit with our emotions. When we allow ourselves to be present with our joy, without needing to capture it or share it immediately, we create space for a deeper connection to the moment. True happiness often flourishes in solitude, where there is no need for external validation or an audience to witness our joy. It is in these quiet, personal moments, watching a sunset in stillness, losing yourself in a book, or simply sitting in the peaceful embrace of nature, that happiness reveals its most authentic and profound form. These experiences, unburdened by the expectations of others, are free from the need to be shared or captured. They exist purely for the individual, untouched by the outside world, allowing us to connect with ourselves on a deeper level. This kind of happiness is raw and genuine because it doesn't rely on any external factors. It doesn't demand likes, comments, or approval, it simply is. There's a certain magic in realizing that joy can thrive in the quiet, away from the noise and distractions of everyday life. When we stop feeling the need to narrate our happiness or prove it to others, we can finally experience it in its purest form. To shut up in the face of happiness is not to suppress it, but to embrace it more fully. It's about creating space both mentally and emotionally to be present with our joy, letting it unfold naturally without the intrusion of external noise. Silence allows us to feel the full depth of our happiness, unfiltered by the opinions or expectations of those around us. In that silence, we can absorb every nuance of the moment, allowing the feeling to sink deeper into our being and resonate more profoundly. And this practice of sitting quietly with happiness doesn't mean we should never share our joy with others. There's beauty in celebrating with loved ones and inviting others into our happiness. But there is also immense value in the moments we keep for ourselves, the private joys that don't require performance or explanation. These moments of quiet joy remind us that happiness is not something to be proven or performed, but something to be experienced and cherished in whatever form it takes. Silence can often serve as a powerful vessel for deepening and enhancing the experience of joy. When we resist the impulse to immediately express or broadcast our happiness, we give that feeling room to grow and evolve within us. Speaking too soon or rushing to share can sometimes disrupt the natural flow of joy, cutting it short before it has fully settled in. In silence, we allow ourselves the chance to savor the feeling, much like taking the time to enjoy a meal. The subtleties of happiness, its warmth, its lightness have the space to expand, allowing us to truly bask in the moment. Silence turns happiness into something more profound, something that lingers longer and feels richer, because we've given it time to unfold fully within us. Keeping happiness quiet can also help us avoid the ego trap that often comes with sharing our joy. When we constantly share our experiences with others, it can sometimes lead to a subconscious need for validation. The purity of our happiness may become tainted by external responses, whether it's in the form of praise, envy, or acknowledgement. We might begin to gauge our happiness based on how others react to it. Are they as happy for us as we are for ourselves? Did they congratulate us, or did they even notice? Instead of resting in the authenticity of our joy, we start to chase after recognition and approval, which can distort the experience. Silence acts as a safeguard, ensuring that our happiness remains rooted within, driven by our own sense of fulfillment rather than external validation. It keeps our joy genuine, unpolluted by the responses of the outside world. In these quiet moments, we also gain the opportunity to deepen our self-awareness. Silence allows us to sit with our emotions and observe what truly brings us happiness. We can reflect on the sources of our joy, the things that genuinely move us, and the moments that fill us with gratitude. This introspective approach helps cultivate a stronger understanding of our emotional landscape. By tuning into the quiet moments, we gain insight into what resonates with us on a deeper level. This self-awareness is invaluable, as it not only helps us savor happiness more fully in the present, but also makes it easier to find our way back to joy when life inevitably brings challenges. In the ebb and flow of life's emotional tides, maintaining a sense of balance becomes crucial. Happiness, like all emotions, is fleeting. Without balance, the highs can carry us too far, leading us into extremes of exuberance or anxiety about losing that happiness. Silence helps us cultivate a grounded sense of joy, one that is calm and centered. By remaining composed during moments of happiness, we build resilience, staying rooted in the present without clinging too tightly to the feeling. This balance allows us to appreciate happiness for what it is, a momentary experience, without becoming attached to it. In turn, when challenges or sadness arise, we are better equipped to navigate those emotions with the same quiet composure, maintaining our inner stability throughout life's inevitable ups and downs. Not all forms of happiness can be captured or conveyed through words. There are moments of joy that are so expansive, so deeply rooted in our being, that any attempt to articulate them diminishes their intensity. These are the kinds of emotions that transcend language, that reside in a place beyond verbal expression. Whether it's the quiet awe of standing before a breathtaking view, or the profound sense of peace that comes from being in the presence of someone you love, some joys simply defy explanation. Trying to describe them can feel like trying to hold water in your hands. It slips through, never quite grasped in its entirety. Silence, however, doesn't attempt to confine or explain. It gives us the freedom to fully inhabit these moments of joy without the pressure of defining or justifying them. In silence, we allow the experience to unfold naturally, immersing ourselves in the feeling without the need to reduce it to something that can be communicated. This approach aligns with the wisdom found in the saying, "When you're happy, don't speak too soon." It's a gentle reminder of the transient nature of happiness, the way it ebbs and flows like a river. Joy is often fleeting, a delicate emotion that can dissipate just as quickly as it arrives. By trying to hold on to it too tightly, whether by expressing it too quickly or attempting to solidify it with words, we risk interrupting its natural course. Happiness, much like any other feeling, is fluid. It's not something we can force into permanence, nor is it something we should grasp too eagerly. Silence teaches us to appreciate joy as it comes, to hold it lightly and with reverence, without the fear of it slipping away. In this way, silence becomes a practice in letting go. Instead of clinging to happiness, trying to pin it down with explanations or declarations, we learn to sit with it, allowing it to fill us without the need to control or prolong it. There's a subtle beauty in this, in knowing that we don't need to chase after joy or grasp at it for it to be meaningful. By staying silent, we give ourselves permission to fully experience happiness as it is, in all its impermanence, trusting that it will return again in time. This quiet acceptance deepens our connection to the moment, allowing us to savor happiness in its purest form, without trying to make it more than what it is. In relationships, whether with ourselves or others, silence during moments of happiness can cultivate a level of connection that words often cannot reach. The beauty of shared silence lies in its ability to convey a deep sense of understanding, trust, and presence without the need for verbal communication. When we sit in quiet contentment with someone we love, we create a space where happiness can exist without being defined or explained. There is no pressure to perform or to express the joy outwardly. Instead, the moment is allowed to simply be. The absence of words becomes its own form of communication, signaling a profound sense of comfort and belonging. It's in these silent moments that we often feel closest to others, knowing that we don't need to fill the space with conversation to feel connected. This shared silence is equally powerful when we experience it alone. Sitting quietly with ourselves, immersed in happiness, can be an intimate act of self-connection. It allows us to acknowledge and appreciate our own joy without needing to externalize it. This internal quiet helps us form a deeper relationship with ourselves, fostering a sense of peace and self-awareness. We learn to recognize that happiness doesn't always need an audience or external validation to be real or meaningful. By holding space for ourselves in silence, we invite a quieter, more sustained form of happiness to take root. In these moments, whether with others or alone, silence creates a kind of sacredness. The lack of words or grand gestures allows the experience to feel more genuine, more grounded in the present. It frees us from the need to embellish or exaggerate our happiness, letting it flow naturally. The joy that arises in these quiet moments is subtle yet profound, filling the space between us and those we love, or filling the space within ourselves with a calm, steady warmth that doesn't demand attention. In this way, silence becomes a conduit for deeper connection, a way to experience happiness in its purest, most unadorned form, while still feeling fully present and alive in the moment. Happiness is undeniably beautiful in all its forms, whether it bursts forth in laughter, is quietly shared with a loved one, or experienced alone in peaceful solitude. There's a richness to the full spectrum of joy, and every expression of it has its own unique value. Yet there's something particularly profound about the quiet moments of happiness, the ones where we don't feel the need to express or define it. These silent joys hold a special kind of depth, offering us a chance to immerse ourselves in the moment without the distractions of external expression or the pull of validation. When we allow ourselves to shut up. In the face of happiness, we give the experience room to expand and settle within us. The silence creates a stillness that enhances our awareness, making the joy feel more present, more real, and more personal. In these moments, we learn that contentment doesn't need to be broadcast to be fully experienced. It is in this inner quiet that we find true satisfaction, a happiness that is self-sustaining and unshaken by external opinions or attention. There's a certain freedom in knowing that joy can thrive in the silence, that it doesn't need to be validated by others to have meaning. In fact, some of the most authentic and lasting forms of happiness are those that come from within, nourished by our own sense of peace and fulfillment. Living in a world that constantly encourages us to share every thought, feeling, and moment can make it easy to forget the value of quiet reflection. We are often urged to turn our emotions into content, to seek acknowledgement, to show our happiness to others as a way of confirming its existence. But by taking a step back and embracing the power of silence, we allow ourselves to experience happiness on a deeper, more intimate level. Silence gives us the space to truly appreciate the moment for what it is without needing to shape or mold it for others. The joys that arise from these quiet spaces are often the most meaningful because they come from the depths of our own soul, untainted by the pressures of the external world.